It's whimsically volatile.
Normally, you would hear my guest and I asking about the headphone levels starting off, but we're, of course, doing this virtually, and it's nice to chat with you again, Brian, Katya.
Yes. Thank you. Yeah, and I panicked a little bit because I assumed I was going over to your house, and then I realized I hadn't showered in 2 days or something, and I smell like the cat's ass. So I'm very happy that you don't have to experience that.
Oh, and listen, and I appreciate that. That also goes in line with how you never destroyed my bathroom, and that was a promise you always kept, and I appreciate that.
There are some. Yeah, I am a person of great inconsistency, but sometimes I do cleave to a singleness of purpose.
That's right, and I greatly appreciate that.
I said cleave. That makes no sense.
No, cleave does that make sense? It's like cleave to the bosom. Cling is what we want. Cling.
Yes.
I think cleave. I think is like you would cut
in half.
That would work with what you were saying about the inconsistency, and it's like it's one of those double binds. I think so, right? That's a scientific term, but
yes.
But what we want to talk about today is, why don't you explain, because we were talking about it on the phone, and I think it's you want to explain some stuff, so I think it's better if you take it over right now.
So I had originally contacted Bob, the drag queen, about like having a sort of a discussion, basically addressing like the some videos that surfaced of me performing lip sync songs where I mimed the N-word in the song. Like there were a few different songs. Like the most common one was the song "Pussy by Lady," which I love so much. And to this day, I still like unironically think should have won a Grammy, but that's beside the point.
Sure.
And then another one by an artist called Coco Brown called "Make This Pussy Nut," which is lovely and vulgar.
Wait, it is?
Anyways,
because the title seems like,
I know it sounds all like kittens and rainbows, but trust me, once you hear the lyrics, it really goes to the blue zone.
All right, I'll take your word for it. Okay, but anyway.
Yeah. You gotta trust me. Also, I just want to like the lyrically, she says pussy layered like lasagna.
Ooh.
And I'm like, Emily Dickinson, just who?
She'd quit. She'd break her pen in half and be like, I can't top that.
Yeah. No, Shakespeare, what?
Yeah.
No, this is, Anyways, but to be serious, a lot of fans were very upset, and a few of them reached out to me directly and were very hurt and very insulted by the me mouthing the words, like not censoring or just simply not doing that kind of stuff. And
I know that you still plan on having the discussion with Bob, and this is not a substitute or replacement for it. However, Bob is understandably very busy right now.
Yeah, exactly. So like, I mean, so basically, in what's happened in the last week or so is that people have been reaching out on multiple platforms, sort of like where's the video, and so I have been reaching out to Bob, but she, like you said, she's a very busy beaver right now. The Black Queer Town Hall thing is like in an hour from now, and it's all weekend, and it's like a huge deal, and she's just I'm not gonna burden her with my white guilt or whatever.
Sure.
So, and it's not her responsibility. Although I originally thought it would be more interesting to have to include this within a broader context of like, what is appropriate for white queens to do in terms of Black music, Black music.
Sure.
But the bottom line is like, I am very sorry to like have hurt the feelings of those fans who are, discovering those videos. And, I would never want anybody to walk away from a lip sync performance of mine and be like, I feel insulted, or I feel horrible, or like, or to have them feel disappointed.
Sure.
That's never, and I would and I'm definitely like, I would never do it again. Like, in this, but there's another issue is that this past spring, I was on a little club tour, and I included the Coco Brown song, like as an encore, I think in a couple of cities, and that hurt one of the fans that I really in particular, who I really like, and she was really disappointed by that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I'm very regretful. I'm very sorry about it. And it was just unnecessary.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
It's just really unnecessary. It's like, I don't think it's just an issue of miming the N-word. It's also, there's some other like, I don't know, like
some other aspects to the cultural work itself.
Exactly.
And of course, just to be clear, when you say unnecessary, you mean I'm taking
for me to do it.
Unnecessary for you to do it, right? Yeah, okay.
Like I have a whole world of songs to choose from, and I can lip sync in 3 languages. So it's like, why? And also, like, it was just very irresponsible. It's very irresponsible and disrespectful. Although because it wasn't intentional, it's lazy. It's like,
sure,
it shows the privilege. Right,
like it's not enough to just be like, well, I didn't know, so it's fine.
Right. I did like a series of tweets on Twitter because my not speaking out immediately about George Floyd and the Black Lives Matter movement in general, that was interpreted as
indifferent silence, I think.
Well, it's like Bob said, but it's just like it doesn't have to be poetry. It doesn't have to be a sonnet. Just speak. It doesn't even have to be spelled right. Just fucking say it. And
right.
So I get that. That's a really However, there is a lot of just talk. And there is a lot of just empty words, and I'm also kind of perhaps a little too critical of like lip service.
Sure.
Because I know it. I've seen it. I've seen people do it here. And it's just like I guess it's also a privileged point of view to be cynical in that regard.
Sure.
Because Twitter or social media is not the only way to do better. But in any case, but
I just also want to say that I think that because of how our platforms are, right, and especially yours, that to utilize Twitter in that way is kind of an obligation morally, because of that's the way that people hear how you feel about things and sort of present the moment-to-moment thoughts on things. And I think that there was some hurt feelings also because in the time that there was silence about the matter, there were promotional
tweets. Right. Yep. Exactly, right. Yeah. I mean, people can interpret things however they want. Some people say, oh, it's just trying to do damage control or trying to just, and I have no power over how people interpret my behavior. But so the last pieces that I talked about, Bob had agreed to do a little discussion, taped, so that it could be instructive. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it wasn't just going to be like, I'm sorry, and I guess I took for granted, like, obviously I'm very sorry that I'm deeply sorry that people were offended and hurt. Like that's like unambiguous, but that I kind of maybe naively or whatever wanted to have it be more impactful.
Okay.
Because it's not, and to be instructive, because it's a very different world now for drag queens.
Sure.
Because when we started, it was like Monday night shows at 11 o'clock for where we pushed boundaries and were vulgar, and it's it's funny because typically, and I've said this before, it's like drag queens were like there's a lot of talk about how like drag queens are activists by nature. They're also hookers, drug dealers, and criminals. And they're also like they're morally upstanding citizens. No, I don't think so. It's I'm not trying to skirt accountability by saying that I'm I'm a criminal,
or that you're exempt because of
exactly.
Other things. But what I'm hearing, I think, is though that you felt like maybe a doubt in, well, what matters what I say.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But I mean, who gives a shit about some, like, another white cracker bitch? It's like, what does my, like, there are so many other important voices to be heard right now. And I was, trying to listen to them too. To shut the fuck up.
The reason that you wanted to do this today is because I think you realize that the hurt feelings were presenting again because of the impression that perhaps you were trying to sweep it under the rug or let it
or just avoid it, or I didn't think it was
exactly
right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's I think another thing is that I was like, and this is like a personal, there's like a vanity thing, is a pride thing, is that it has become like a cliche. It's almost like a meme, this quote unquote celebrity apology thing. But that's that kind of like vain. That's just me being, not wanting to admit that I'm just a one of a many people who have like made mistakes and need to fess up to them.
Sure.
But so anyways, what was I just going to say?
That's okay. You can, I mean, I do edit, so, and it's a tough, it's tough too to formulate your thoughts, and
it is, because I don't, and that's the other thing too, is I don't have like, I guess I kind of overestimated my I don't really have a sophisticated or a really evolved like point of view on it, because I think it is quite simple in one way. It's just like, oh shit, I wish I hadn't said that. That was wrong. I'm sorry.
Right.
And that was like, oh, well, that was simple. Like, I don't know what the hell was the holdup, but it was a strange thing. I have to admit, it was a strange thing to like, sometimes, like when I would look at the social media, like in the last couple of days, to just see like replies and replies and replies from accounts with my face on them.
Now, you sure you weren't? Were you replying to yourself? I just know. I was like, wait a minute, what's going on? And then like on Instagram, which my messages on Instagram are such a mess. It's hard to even really parse through those. But on Twitter, it's a little bit simpler. And I'm like, who are these people? Are you me? Like, and it's like, Mom, you really need to apologize. Mom, we're waiting. Mom, where's the... And I was like, what is going on? What is going on here? So that was a bit strange. And and I have to admit that there was a little bit from those kind of faceless me accounts. I was like, I got a little bit irritated. But there was some, but there are some fans who I've met and know, and whose opinions I really value and respect, because they've although they're quite young, they're incredibly intelligent and have a lot to teach me and offer to people in general. And their experience as a fan in the fandom is valuable for me to know. Just not as like a marketing research thing, but just as I want to know. It's like. Especially because, like what you do is like, you're not just putting out like some product that you think is going to work for whoever, whatever audience. No. It's your actual art. It's your actual expression. And so when you make connections with people that value that, that's a special thing. And that just adds to the specialness of the connection, I think.
Yeah, I'm not just like hawking shirts. Like, I forget that I even have them. You know what I mean? It's like I'm not like sweating at night. Was like, oh my God, is this video going to affect my third quarter sales? But that's not I am concerned about doing the right thing, like just in general. And I'd rather say nothing than say the wrong thing sometimes. Now, do you
think that that's a mistake though?
I think sometimes, perhaps, yeah. I mean, I don't, I was waiting to talk to Bob. But I guess the
urgency maybe.
From the comments, or the number of comments like indicated that it was there was an urgency to address it. And, so that, thus this conversation. another thing is like, I mean, there is a bit of absurdity inherent in this discussion because, of course, we are two white men.
Yes.
You know, having having what could be or should be a kind of a nuanced discussion about white privilege and inappropriate behavior.
Sure, and racism, and I think that you'll still have that conversation with Bob. But
yeah,
I know that you just wanted to put out a little chat to address the hurt feelings and the issue at hand.
Yeah, and it's I mean it's and one fan in particular was reached out and was like, I'm curious to know if I come to one of your shows and I'm going to see this again. So that's a good example of something that I took for granted. It was like, oh my God, no,
right?
Like, no, absolutely not. Like, you do not have to worry about that.
Yeah. And, so just to be clear, you're never doing those songs again.
Absolutely not. And it's like, I would never say the N-word in real life. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's like not something I would do. And then, but it's like, well, why the hell would I? It's like, so what is it? Why would I feel like it was okay to mime it in a song and just not being held accountable and not having to answer those questions in real time, like in real life with, from people to show. It's just like, damn, that's fucking, that's the privilege. And not having to face a lot of criticism or not having to face even a fraction of the criticism that many queens of color have to.
Sure.
Is again, it's, I mean, we all know that the expectations and the popularity of queens is there's a big racial divide, and a lot of times the white queens are excused. They're excused or it's ignored or whatever. And I think and I think that's probably one of the reasons that like people were annoyed by my silence or my like lack of urgency to address it, because it's like, oh, okay, well, she thinks that she can just sweep it under the rug because she probably can.
You can see why there might be a jaded expectation or rather a diminished expectation.
Yeah, and it's really like naive on my part, because it's that thing. Sometimes it's like you continue to act a fool if nobody checks you on it, and I have to admit I'm very embarrassed because there is a steeper learning curve than I imagined, and to think like, I mean,
are you saying like it's embarrassing to realize that maybe you're not as woke or as aware of things as you thought you were? Yeah.
I mean, it is. It's like I definitely, I know that I have, like many white folks, like we've got this implicit in bias. We have inherited racism. We are, but it's our responsibility to unlearn that, to undo that. It's not. It doesn't fall on it's not a black person problem. You know what I mean? It's right. It's like
it's our responsibility. It's our responsibility. Our moral obligation.
Yeah, and I just need to do better, and I will. I don't know, and it's just like again, it's like, well, I'm critical as I say those words because they're words, they're just words, and
and also I think you have a tendency to sort of be down on yourself when you're saying something like that. Not something specifically about this issue, but when you're saying something about like doing something good, I think you have this inner voice thing where you're like, yeah, but really, what are you going to do? But I think that's the thing that's a luxury, right? And what I think we can do is when we have those thoughts, is to take them and say, well, okay, then what can I do? Because if there's an inner doubt, then that means that maybe we are feeling that we're not doing enough, right? So then we just have to try to do more, and whatever that is, and in whatever way. And anyone listening right now, if you're not able to donate to things, figure out a way to boost the signal on things that you want to be donated to. There's that terrific site that is in the comments, not the comments, pardon me, in the description of this episode, where you can go, the Black Lives Matter site that has various places and organizations, institutions, etc., petitions to sign. So there's always a way to do something, no matter where you are on the socioeconomic scale, or where you live. So
yeah, and or like especially for for white folks, it's like there is tremendous value in addressing little microaggressions maybe at the dinner table.
Oh yeah, sure.
And for example, I remember in the dressing room back in the day at Jacques, I called out. It was it was interesting. It was a really uncomfortable. It's really uncomfortable for me.
Yeah.
To address another white person's racist comment, and I kind of snapped and I did it, but because I'm not very good with confrontation, and it was a wonderful way that racism proliferates.
Well, that's true too. A lot of we all have to ask ourselves about certain instances in our life.
Right. Well, years later, that person was like, I remember that. I remember, like, I think about that instance a lot, and it actually helped. So I was like, damn, okay. It's a small thing, Small things, and that's another thing to think about too, is that however we think about the world or activism, also if you are self-doubting or whatever, if you do think that something is not going to have as big of an effect as you would like it to, that doesn't matter. It's doing it. So if you feel like you should do it, you should do it. And I think listen to that instinct. Yeah. Yeah. And, it's, it's,
Oh, that's okay. No, I know. And then the other weird thing is when we're so used to
acting a fool.
What's that? Well, no, just because we're used to like blah, blah, blah. I mean, we can talk forever, but then this is, it's difficult to talk about. It's difficult to talk about, which means that we should be talking about it.
Exactly right. And the reticence, the discomfort, the lack of knowing, this is all instructive, for me at least. Anyways,
for me as well.
Yeah, I hope that, I hope this, at least if anyone's listening who was hurt by that, I sincerely, regret and am deeply sorry about doing something that's just dumb, stupid, insensitive, and unnecessary,
Yeah.
And so, and I appreciate, I deeply appreciate them, because there have, especially the fans who have been very generous in their time and energy in compassionately and clearly sharing their feelings about it with me, because that's really generous.
It is,
and I do appreciate that. So yeah.
Also, you got some nice hairpins from one of the lovely fans
from Alexis.
That's right,
Alexis. Yeah, the hair. that is she. Yeah, that's the regret. Because it's like, oh God, especially someone like her. That she's the last person I would ever want to hurt. I don't want to hurt anybody, but like if well,
you sent me a couple letters that imply that you would like to hurt me.
Kick you in the shins. Yeah. If I had to have to take you out of the kneecap, I probably wouldn't think twice about it. But
that's why we're doing this virtually, by the way. It's
exactly. But Alexis is like, one of the best gifts ever, and then they turn out to be one of the best photos in the book. It's like, oh goddamn. It really sucks.
Well, I remember first seeing those backstage at that place in England. My mind during this time, during the Corona thing, is just like words and titles for places. The biggest gay bar in London, gay, G-A-Y.
G-A-Y.
Okay, yeah.
G-A-Y.
So backstage at that, you can see it was hard for me to find that word. Backstage, Trixie was so excited to show me those. It was, I think, pretty close after you got them. So, but anyway, I know. So, well, listen, I'm glad we got to have this chat. I hope.
Yeah, thanks for doing it. It's like it's not the most ideal scenario, and it's a bit strange, but I think it needed to happen. And I hope to continue the discussion with Bob, or in a context where I could have the opportunity to learn a bit more.
Because I'll tell you what, you can't learn anything from me.
Mama, how can I learn anything from you? I taught you from day one. I read you the book. I got you your first bicycle.
I know, that's true. And I still have it. In the other room.
You do.
Yeah.
You do.
I do.
But so what I will be tuning into the Black Queer Town Hall, and in the spirit of lady, I will. I made a donation already, but I'm going to make another one in the spirit of Coco Brown, because I know this is not a joke, but I'm just telling you that "pussy layered like lasagna" is one of the best lyrics I've ever heard in my life.
You can't argue with that. And
I really can't.
And because we're taping it on Juneteenth, I'd like to say Happy Juneteenth.
Oh, that's another fucking thing. I mean, never read about it once in school.
Mm-hmm.
Never.
Mm-hmm.
The first time I heard the expression was on a goddamn Erykah Badu track. Like, it's so insane.
It's a really terrific, sad example of about how schools aren't teaching what they should be teaching.
Right. And it's, and it's like, it's not only misinformation, but it's just like bite-sized misinformation, because the abolition of slavery was not the freedom. It's like, it did not mean, it's not a cause for celebration. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And it wasn't just like, hey guys, guess what? Everything's cool now.
Everything's not cool, because now you can get arrested for loitering and spend the rest of your life in jail. And, it's like because I recently watched the 13th, that amazing documentary by Ava DuVernay, and there's levels of shock and disgust, because it's like the shock and disgust of the reality and the shock and disgust of my ignorance happening in real time.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And it's just like, fucking shit, man. It's just the economy of the United States was not viable without all of this free labor. And then literally the abolition of slavery led to the creation of the fucking police state, the
prison.
In the prison, the prison industrial complex.
Yeah, right.
It's just like,
is there a more ghoulish thing on
ghoulish?
Yeah, ghoulish.
Absolutely ghoulish.
Yeah, and of course it's not a huge logical jump in terms of how things happen to then see the systems of the police and how they target people and who they arrest,
thinking back, like Clinton, perpetrator. What he did with the crime bill is like, what was that, 94, 92 or something like that? It's like, oh my God, it's the 3 strikes, you're out, and then the just locking people away.
Yeah.
And
I can't
and
remember the name of the bill, but the one where people can just be questioned and frisked. Stop and frisk, I guess. That would be
stop and frisk. Yeah,
that was in the bucket in my mind with the name of the gay bar. I said frisk and stop, and I couldn't remember.
Oh,
yeah. My brain's turning to mush, but
yeah, it's insane. And like this country, it can be so amazing. This country can be the absolute worst.
I really felt an incredible wave of optimism when the marches started, though, about the future of the country, and particularly with the psycho that is allegedly the president. He's got to get voted out, and I feel like this wave of activity is a sign that apathy.
It has to be.
Apathy has to be over.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and it's but it's like, it's just, I can't. I'm trying to like figure, you're trying to imagine this. What would it look like? You're trying to like a vision of equality, or a vision of like peace and opportunity for everybody. Like, what the ideal scenario?
Sure.
And
like, what are the corrective measures? And
right, but but when you're like, how do we fucking get there? With the current system, it's like, oh God, this system is designed for us not to get there.
Right.
And that's some of the.
Well, that's some of the depression that comes from that, and the helplessness, I think.
Yeah, but like, how about this, Craig? Like, why the fuck can I deposit a check on I can take my phone and take a check and it gets into my checking account in seconds.
Yeah, right.
Taking a picture of it, but I can't vote. Like, right. But voting is is like so prohibitive, and it's such a huge pain in the ass, and you don't get the day off. And even then, if it's as streamlined as possible, you still don't know who to vote for. Is not like. No,
I know it's not. I know that the candidate is not ideal, but of course, I have a whole thing about protest votes, and I don't think there is anything that constitutes a protest vote anymore, except for Joe Biden, because Trump's got to go.
I know, and there's no useful. I don't think there's a useful about lamenting Biden, perhaps, but I'll do that privately. I guess it's just like, oh my God. I appreciate you let me have this discussion, Greg, because although it was, I mean, I don't feel like the most articulate, verbose, and it's certainly not satisfying. I hope it means something to the fans, because I really do just want to, I'm saying I'm sorry, because I feel bad about it.
Well, listen, I'm happy we could have this discussion, and I want to send my love to everyone listening.
I do the same.